lots happening in Western politics, Western issues. This past week, it was the First Minister's meeting in Muskoka. They never have these in places like Vegreville. So it's always someplace
Or on Zoom.
right,
or on
or
Zoom.
over
They
Zoom.
don't do these things. Yeah.
And at the meeting of the First Ministers, Premier Smith was doing what she does best, and that was pushing the Western energy sector. We've got this post from Premier Smith, posted to X. Efron, if you could bring it up. Canada's premiers met today to discuss emergency management and wildfires, how we can take action to advance nation-building projects and manage our relationship with the United States and expand international trade. You know what I would like to have heard? Expanding internal trade. She says we're ready to get major projects built quickly and responsibly, but we need the federal government to address our shared concerns around policies like the production cap and net zero regulations to generate the investor certainty needed to bring these projects forward. Now, I'm glad she talked about investor certainty caused by regulatory craziness out of the federal government, because everyone is talking about a reigniting Energy East or any number of these nation building projects. But the problem is nobody's going to step up and invest money while you have these liberal Trudeau era policies standing out in the field like a scarecrow, forcing investment dollars to run to safer jurisdictions like Algeria and northern Iraq. Kris, first I'll go to you. Kris Sims.
Yeah, you make a great point there, because I think sometimes, Sheila, these politicians who know better, by the way,
Right.
and in particular, Prime Minister Mark Carney gets away with saying things like, oh, investment, investment. And what he means by that now, as being Prime Minister, is you, your neighbors, your family, taxpayers being on the hook for this thing. No sane person who supports Canada's oil and gas sector and wants to see more drilling, more product, more pipelines heading out there wants to see this built by taxpayers. That's crazy talk. They want to have that stable, normal environment where some bigwig company can look at Canada and say, you know what? I don't think it's going to be blocked. I don't think that the government's going to drag its feet for 5 years. I'm going to get a good return on investment. Let's spend our own company's money on this. That's what we want to see out of this. We don't want the government getting into the business of building pipelines, because it'll turn into a boondoggle and a big waste of money.
Yeah, just ask Kinder Morgan what happened when the federal government didn't do its job.
Exactly.
Kris Oldcorn, do you think we're ever going to see a pipeline built as long as the Liberals are in power? Well, I guess a pipeline that wasn't bought and paid for by the Canadian taxpayers and came in 800% over budget?
I think we need to actually look at the messaging that we're giving to the world. In one side of Mark Carney's mouth, he puts in a EV mandate by 2035.
Right.
Well, pipelines are not built in 1 year. Pipelines are built over many years. So by the time this pipeline gets through all the regulatory processes, and let's say we can build one from Saskatchewan to the BC coast, we could be mandating electric vehicle only cars at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yet we want to double our oil exports at the same time to the rest of the world. If I'm an investor, this is sending the exact wrong signal to me. It's sending a signal to me that's saying, okay, well, they want to export oil, but they also are saying that they want to use electric vehicles only on their roads. So, like, this is just, it's liberal doublespeak. I don't think there's a pipeline that's going to happen that would go through Quebec ever, because it's not politically popular and the Liberals need Quebec to stay in power. If they lose, let's say, 10 ridings in Quebec and the Conservatives pick those 10 ridings up and they lose some ridings in Ontario from the pipeline as well, next election you could very well see a Conservative government, just simply because they approved the pipeline. Because there are people in Ontario and Quebec that are very focused on electric vehicle only cars. That might work in Toronto or Ottawa if you don't have to drive far, but try using an electric car in Saskatchewan.
Yes.
Lise and I would be stranded on the side of the road before we could even get out of the province.
Right. And then, you factor in the production cap. So who's going to invest in Canada when then you have this Soviet style supply management on how much you can produce.
Mhm.
It doesn't make any sense. You cannot maximize your investment. And again, when you look at what it would take to get a pipeline or any major fossil fuel energy project to completion in this country, a lot of these countries are saying, you know what, it's probably just a lot easier to pay off the local warlord in Algeria to get the project done. Lise?
Yeah. Yeah. When she says that she needs the federal government to address shared concerns around policies like production caps and net zero regulations to generate investor certainty, what she's actually saying is we need the federal government to get the hell out of our way. Because as long as the federal government is involved in projects like this, it breeds uncertainty in investment from private industry. As long as the federal government is involved, we know that there are going to be regulatory hurdles that are going to be next to impossible for these companies to jump over to get these projects underway, let alone shovels in the ground. Okay, just the pre-regulatory approvals that they're going to have to get. So if the federal government is serious about nation building projects, about making Canada an energy superpower, they must be willing to get the hell out of the way. But as we know, our federal government has a big interest in keeping control of these things because we know that they have an agenda underneath, which is amplified by their green energy projects, by their sustainability projects, by their EV mandates by 2035. We know that they like to be involved. But if they want to help the Western provinces, if they want to win the Western provinces over, they'll get the hell out of the way on these projects.
And they've been
Sheila,
overstepping for years because
yeah.
natural resource development is a provincial jurisdiction.
Thank you. Yep.
Yes.
They,
I
Yep.
it's
just wanted to jump in there, Sheila, if
Yeah.
I can, because thank you so much for including me in this Buffalo podcast. I love it. I love that we're part of the Buffalo show. I sat there and did the math. And you know how we often talk about equalization costing us billions? That's true. But the stifling and strangling of natural resources projects have cost Canada an estimated 600 or so billion dollars since 2015. If you add on the energy cap that you just mentioned, now we're talking some major cash. I
Yep.
did the math. The strangulation of our natural resources projects by the federal government would cover the income tax bills of every man, woman, and child in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba for the last 10 years. Imagine the entire populations of our Western Prairie provinces not having to pay income taxes for a decade. That's how much they're screwing us.
not to
That's
mention the LNG contract we could have had with
Right.
Germany, which was
Or
worth
Japan.
trillions, which went to a Middle East dictator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the 600 billion with a B.
Oh, it is?
Like,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
That's
Yeah.
insane. But the one thing that I do want to mention is as it pertains to natural resources being the purview of the provinces themselves, we don't want the federal government involved in developing these projects. Saskatchewan has one of the biggest deposits of uranium in the world. Do we want Brookfield associated companies to come in and start managing the mines that they're going to start putting into production? Absolutely not. This is why Danielle Smith is saying we need you all the way out of our natural resource development, like
Right.
all the way out, not a little bit, all the way out. And good for her.